Despite the presence of COVID-19, 2020 was a great year for video games. Ghost of Tsushima took everybody by surprise with how good it was. Streets of Rage 4 brought back that classic arcade beat-em-up style gameplay. Wasteland 3 brought back that classic strategy RPG style gameplay. And Among Us rose from obscurity to become one of the biggest online games ever. Cyberpunk 2077 was pretty good as long as you have a pretty decent PC or next-gen console. As for Avengers, well, we won't talk about that. Anyway, for the new console generation upon us, 2021 promises to be an even bigger year for gaming. Already we had some great releases such as Hitman 3 this past week, and we got even more coming up starting next week. So we're going to take a look at 20 games that I personally have my eye on for 2021. Of course, some of these games were on last year's list but ended up delayed due to COVID-19 or certain other issues. But here are 20 games for 2021, so let's jump right in. So yeah, this was supposed to have been out last year in time for the Xbox Series X launch. However, COVID-19 and the middling reception to last summer's trailer caused the game to be delayed to sometime this year. To me, this is ultimately for the better, even if that left the Xbox Series X without any big name system sellers at launch. The additional time can only benefit it, and hopefully the studio can avoid resorting to crunch. Although I have my concerns about microtransactions, Halo Infinite will once again become one of the Xbox's biggest marquee franchises. And hey, who knows, by the time it does launch, there will be enough Xbox Series X units available. This is the indie-developed sequel to the classic WWF WrestleFest. Focusing on indie wrestlers, at least those who were independent at the time they agreed to appear in the game, Retromania promises to bring back the fun factor of those early arcade wrestling games. The cast includes old-school grapplers like the Road Warriors and Austin Idol, the future stars like Warhorse and Jeff Cobb. If the game gets proper support at launch, the developers will add new content such as new wrestlers, including women, and a creator wrestler mode. When it comes out this February, you'll want to check it out. The developers have been taking their time and making it the best they can be. You can check out their development vlogs by going to their YouTube channel, which I listed below in the description. Another game that was supposed to drop last year, and I'm getting a bit concerned about what I've been hearing about the game. Since its announcement, we'll learn that writer Brian Mitsoda, who also wrote the original Bloodlines, had been terminated from the project. Senior writer Kara Ellison would also lead the project a short time later. That doesn't even begin to get into the delay. Still, however, I'm excited about a sequel to one of the most underrated RPGs of the past 2 decades. Taking place in modern-day Seattle, you play as a newly sired vampire who is the victim of a mass embrace, which is when vampires convert humans to their own kind. You can ally with several different factions and join one of 5 different vampire clans. If this game is done right, it will appear. Speaking of games based on White Wolf role-playing games, we have Werewolf Apocalypse. An upcoming action RPG, Werewolf will put players in the shoes of Cahal, a werewolf who was exiled from his tribe. While searching for his daughter, he hears of a threat to his old community and sets out to save them. Throughout the game, you'll do battle against the Worm, an ancient cosmic force of evil. In addition, you'll also do battle against the Pentex Corporation, a group that serves this force as it ravages the Earth, and even your own inner rage as you struggle against the beast within. You can switch between 3 forms, human, wolf, and werewolf, each having their own abilities and being useful in different situations. While we may not know much about Masquerade 2 Bloodlines, this game is slated for next month. At the very least, this won't be any Twilight bullshit. Tearing apart enemies as an invincible werewolf? Shit, sign me up for that. With Vampire the Masquerade 2, Resident Evil Village, and Werewolf all dropping this year, 2021 will be a great year for horror gamers. One more title that will contribute to this is Medium. Coming to the Xbox Series X, this looks to be the first big game for the system. Medium is developed by Blooper Team, best known for the Layers of Fear series and Observer. As you can see, they're no strangers to horror. Playing as Marion, you investigate the secret of a young girl's murder. Marion has the ability to travel the spirit world and the real world at the same time. This ability will no doubt come in handy with the game's puzzles and enemies. Akira Yamaoka of Silent Hill fame will contribute to the game's soundtrack, so that will add to the game's atmosphere. While gamers are still hurting for the cancellation of Silent Hills, the medium may provide that old school Silent Hill style horror they've been fiending for. Oh yeah, it's coming to Game Pass on day 1 and it's out next Thursday as well. The latest and greatest in Capcom's survival horror franchise is on its way this year, and it looks to provide a new kind of horror. Following up from Resident Evil 7, you once again step into the shoes of Ethan Winters as he journeys to the titular village and a castle within to rescue his daughter. The game will once again be played from the first-person perspective, and you'll do battle with several new enemies. Among these new enemies are a group of vampire sisters and their mother, who is really tall. Along with the new game, Capcom will be releasing an online multiplayer game called Resident Evil Reverse. Reverse will let players take the role of several iconic Resident Evil characters across several different maps. While Capcom's previous attempts at online play have been, well, let's say lacking, I am intrigued about Reverse. As for Resident Evil 8, I can't wait to experience the new story and the setting come this May. PlayStation 5 owners can download a free demo where you can play as a character who has to escape the castle. Similar to Resident Evil 7's intro, the demo features a new character in a scenario that takes place before the main game. Another game I had on my list from last year, Bravely Default 2, would end up being one of the many games delayed to this year thanks to the COVID-19 pandemic. Bravely Default 2 is actually the third game in the series, as the second game was a side story to the first rather than a true sequel. Coming to Switch later this year, Bravely Default 2 promises to give players the old school Japanese RPG action they've been waiting for since Final Fantasy. Complete with a job system, beautiful artwork, and epic storytelling, Bravely Default 2 will become a hit with Switch owners just as its predecessors were with 3DS owners years ago. Developed by Mechanical Head Studios and published by Yacht Club, who you know from Shovel Knight, Cyber Shadow is an 8-bit style game that looks to be a throwback to games like Mega Man, Castlevania, and Ninja Gaiden. Playing as Shadow, you set out to rescue your clan from a group of evil robots who are harvesting their life force. Listen, as much as I like the latest AAA releases, there's something to be said about these smaller indie titles. Graphics like these take me right back to my childhood playing on the NES. This is definitely one to check out when it hits next week, especially if you like old school style games. And like Medium, it'll be coming to Xbox Game Pass day 1. As you saw during the Game Awards, this is pretty much a bigger and bolder Left 4 Dead. Better yet, it's made by the original creators of Left 4 Dead 2. Playing as one of 4 characters, you team up with your friends to fend off zombies. It's the same kind of gameplay as you remember, but this time, the maps and the zombies are bigger. It's been over a decade since Left 4 Dead 2, and fans are going to want to check this game out for their zombie killing fix. It's about time too. This year, one of Asia's biggest online multiplayer games, Crossfire, will make its US console debut. Basically a throwback to Counter-Strike, Crossfire X has players taking the role of an operative from one of 2 mercenary groups in a series of objective-based match types. The game will also contain a story campaign created by Remedy, who you'll recognize from Alan Wake, the first 2 Max Payne games, and the more recent Control. Crossfire X will be arriving on Xbox One and Series X first. I was able to play the beta this past summer, and I had a lot of fun with it even with the small amount of content. While this game likely won't become the new Fortnite or PUBG, it has a lot of cool ideas. No doubt we'll see more content during and post-launch, and hopefully the monetization aspects will be sensible and won't resort to stuff like loot boxes or pay-to-win aspects. Nintendo Switch owners are getting not only 1, but 2 Monster Hunter games this year. Monster Hunter Rise will no doubt be the bigger entry, and it will be the sequel to Monster Hunter World, which was Capcom's biggest selling title. Although the graphical features will be more in line with Monster Hunter Ultimate, it will borrow several features from World, such as seamless transition between areas. If you remember, in Monster Hunter World, you went from area to area without having to sit through a loading screen, so it's awesome to see this feature on the Switch. You can play a free demo now and unlock items in the main game once it releases in March. Also hitting this year is Monster Hunter Stories 2. This game is a turn-based RPG set within the world of Monster Hunter. While it's a sequel to the 3DS original, players won't have to have played that game to get the whole story. With Monster Hunter World being Capcom's biggest selling game ever, and with the recent movie, the Monster Hunter franchise is getting bigger than ever, and no doubt all eyes are going to be on these games when they are released on Switch. Last year at the DC Experience, we learned about this new multiplayer game. Gotham City Knights isn't a sequel to the Arkham games, rather taking place in a new universe. Taking place after Batman's apparent death, players take on the role of Bat family members such as Robin, Nightwing, Red Hood, and Batgirl as they attempt to fill his shoes and protect Gotham. Each character has their own upgradable abilities, and you can battle alongside a friend for co-op play. You'll battle familiar villains such as Mr. Freeze and the Court of Owls. I can't wait to see how the combat works and how the story plays out. If they can pull this off properly, this could be the multiplayer superhero game that Avengers was supposed to be. I'm a Marvel fan, but who didn't grow up with Batman? This is definitely going to be one to check out when it releases later this year. Ghostwire Tokyo is an action horror game from publisher Bethesda and developer Tango Gameworks. Tango Gameworks, headed by Resident Evil creator Shinji Mikami, is also responsible for the Evil Dead series, so they are no strangers to horror. Taking place in Tokyo, 99% of the humans have disappeared, leaving you to investigate while battling demons and spirits. Along with Deathloop and other Bethesda games set to come out this year, it will be arriving on PlayStation 5 first as a time exclusive. The game will also be coming to Xbox Series X at some point. With Microsoft's purchase of Bethesda, both games will no doubt arrive on Game Pass when they do. Still, this game is interesting enough that I'm not going to wait until then to check it out. Not a whole lot is known about this upcoming horror game from Ebb Software, except that it will be an Xbox Series X exclusive, at least when it first launches, and its gameplay will feature puzzles and exploration. Its unsettling visuals are clearly inspired by the works of H.R. Giger, whose design work is heavily featured in the Alien franchise. This was one of the most intriguing games shown during last summer's Xbox showcase, and we'll learn more about it throughout the next several months as we approach its release. For now, the visuals alone should be enough to draw interest for gamers. King's Bounty 2 is the sequel to the classic Genesis, Apple II, and DOS strategy RPG. This looks to be a true sequel rather than a spin-off game like King's Bounty The Legend or any of its sequels, most recent of which being Darkside. Like its predecessor, King's Bounty 2 is a strategy fantasy game. This time, the game will contain deep RPG elements and a narrative that promises to change depending on your actions. You'll have your choice of one of three main characters, and the game's graphics will reflect the more realistic atmosphere rather than the cartoony vibe of the previous games. Wasteland 3 and Gears Tactics were two of my favorite games from last year, and they both renewed my love for turn-based strategy. If King's Bounty 2 can live up to its promises, no doubt it will keep things moving when it comes to awesome strategy titles. No doubt you saw my trailer breakdown, which as of now is my third highest reviewed and the most liked video on my channel. Of course, that's not saying much. Esports Boxing Club is the first new boxing simulation since 2011's Fight Night Champion, and it promises to outdo it in every way. With a roster of 65 boxers and counting, next-gen footwork, a comprehensive career mode, a deep character creator, and seasonal updates, EBC looks like it's finally going to deliver that knockout blow that boxing fans have been wanting. Its roster will include a mix of rising stars, both male and female, current names, and legends, including Joe Frazier, Sugar Shane Mosley, and Tommy Morrison. If they can deliver on the gameplay, this could have fans eager to get back into the ring when it hits early access sometime this year. This was one of my honorable mentions from last year, and it graduated to my main list this year. No More Heroes 3 is the fourth entry in the cult classic franchise that began on the Wii. Once again, you're playing as Travis Touchdown and you return to the town of Stand and Destroy with your beam saber to save it from an alien invasion. The aliens are led by an overlord named FU. Not a whole lot else is known about it, but like many Suda51 games, it will no doubt be absolutely goat fuck crazy. Suda promises that the gameplay will be different from previous titles, and I'm waiting to see how that turns out. The first two games had a unique flair to them, to say the least, and even though Travis Strikes Again fell short, it still managed to have some of this series' unique brand of humor. The thing I like about Suda is that he doesn't care about mainstream sensibilities. He likes making the games he wants, and games like No More Heroes and Killer 7 reflect that. Horizon Zero Dawn was one of the PlayStation 4's best games, and Horizon Forbidden West looks to top that. Once again playing as Aloy, you set out west to explore a post-apocalyptic United States, once again battling robot dinosaurs and other creatures. This time you'll also have to contend with a mysterious substance known as a Red Blight, a mysterious life form that can infest wildlife. Horizon Zero Dawn was one of the many games that put the PlayStation 4 on top last generation, and Forbidden West hopes repeated success when it launches on the PlayStation 5 later this year. This was a huge surprise when it was shown at last year's Xbox Showcase. The last game in the Stalker series was Clear Sky, and that came out back in 2008. While development on Stalker 2 was originally announced in 2010, it was cancelled a few years later. Miraculously, the game will be revived in 2018, and it will be revealed that the game will be coming to Xbox Series X along with PC. Of course, it's also coming to Game Pass on day one when it launches. For those not in the know, Stalker is a hybrid of first-person shooter, role-playing, and horror that takes place in an alternate reality version of Chernobyl. Stalker 2 will likely be the same, although it will take place in a true open world this time. Ukrainian developer CSG Game World's Stalker series is a cult hit among PC gamers, and its mashup of first-person shooter and horror can't be pigeonholed into one genre. This is going to be another game that fans will have their eyes on when it launches. SNK is once again making a strong case as to why it should be considered the king of fighters with the latest entry in its long-running franchise, KOF 15. Not a whole lot has been revealed about the game so far, not even what platforms it's heading to. What we do know is that several classic characters will be returning, such as Kaio Tsunagi, Mai Shiranu, and Benimaru Nakado. Also, like 2019 Samurai Showdown, it will utilize the Unreal 4 engine. No platform has been announced, but if I had to guess, it will be coming to the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, and maybe even current generation systems with smart delivery for Xbox Series X and a free upgrade for the PlayStation 5 version, and maybe there will even be a Steam release shortly after. Either way, I can't wait till I can hop back into the series. Well, that was my top 20 for 2021. What did you think? Are there any games I didn't list that you're looking forward to? Let me know in the comments below. Also, if you like what you just saw, click the thumbs up icon. And if you want to see more, hit that subscribe button and click the little bell icon so you'll be the first to know whenever I put out a new video. Anyway, this was the second of 3 top 10 lists for 2021. My third one, which is top 10 predictions for 2021, will be out sometime next week. Until then, again, like, subscribe, comment, share, and until next time, I hope you have a great rest of your weekend, and I'm Audi 51000G, kinfolk.